call to order the regular meeting at 7 p.m. on Thursday, February 20th. With that, before we get started, I'll pass it over to William Parkin.
Thanks. Director Bowles is appearing tonight remotely under the Just Cause exception under the Brown Act, which can be done twice a year by a director. And there's a statement of emergency circumstances. She informed us earlier today, she informed staff that she's not feeling well and doesn't want to give us all the bug, which is really very kind of her. And she has to disclose whether there are individuals of 18 years of age or older in the room at the remote location. And I think she's going to tell me that no, there are not. There are not anybody under 18 years of age in the room.
No. Hi, good evening. I have nobody else in the room with me, over 18 or otherwise.
And she's appearing, both video and audio is available. And then the board will just need to take action on the request. And if one of you will make a motion and just approve that remote.
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, do a roll.
We have to do a roll call.
For that? Okay. Director Dye.
Aye.
Director Randall.
Aye.
Director Marsh.
Aye.
Director Bowles.
Aye.
Director Grant.
Yes.
Thanks. 0.
All right. So with that, we'll open up to general public participation.
We didn't do a roll call in general.
Oh, sorry. Yes,
Like
yes.
An attendance roll call.
Oh, yeah.
That before or after, but so tonight we have, I'm going to do a quick roll call for everybody just for attendance. Yeah. So Director Dye.
Here.
Director Randall. Here. Director Marsh. Here. Director Grant.
Yes.
Director Bowles.
Here.
And also in attendance is General Manager Chuck Duffy, Assistant General Manager Hope Atmore, and Legal Counsel Bill Parkin.
Great. Thanks. Sorry about that. So with that, we will do general public participation. So public members may comment on matters under the jurisdiction of the district that are not on the agenda. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. And we will take people in the room, folks in the room first, and then we'll see if there's anyone on Zoom. Yes, go ahead.
Should I take the?
Yes, please. Go to the-
Well, thank you for having me. My name is Kevin Sniczynski. I'm a resident of Granada. I see a lot of my neighbors there and here. It's a pleasure to be here with you tonight. I wanted to start by saying that I'm newly elected treasurer to the MCC. At our first meeting when being sworn in, Supervisor Ray Mueller spoke. I asked him specifically what role he saw in cross-organizational support. And he mentioned that it was particularly important, especially when projects or issues are being moved forward to the full Board of Supervisors. To show that kind of support from sister organizations would be most beneficial. So I'm here tonight to volunteer my presence, since I can't really participate or comment on any of your processes, just to be the MCC liaison to help you communicate, whether it be a question or something that you would seek of the MCC back to the full council, and then bring it back to you either via email or in person at a future meeting. And if you see fit to assign somebody to kind of bring me up to speed, I really don't know the full history or legacy of projects that you've been working on that you may want some input from the MCC for. So feel free to reach out.
I remember in the past, we had an MCC representative attending one of our meetings.
Yeah, Dave Olson used to come to every meeting. Yeah. So it's been years. Nice to have you back, NCC.
Are there any other folks in the room? And on Zoom? Looks like we only have one other person. All right. So with no other comment.
I have a public comment.
Sure. Sorry, Joe.
Yeah, thanks, Jen. Yesterday, the San Mateo County Harbor District Board held their monthly public meeting. On page 3 of the agenda was an item to create overflow parking for Pillar Park Harbor. to authorize General Manager Jim Pruitt to issue a request for proposal, an RFP, for a design, engineering, and permitting to construct a 75-space parking lot on the Burnham Strip. This is on privately owned parcels owned by the Harbor District, Caltrans, and San Mateo County. In typical Harbor District fashion, they held their meeting at a time when most of the community could not attend, 10 a.m. on a weekday. They further suppressed the community's right to comment by only allowing the public to verbally comment in person. Written comments received prior to the meeting were not read in their entirety. Instead, President Catherine Slater Carter used her own bias to condense the emailed comments into a sentence or two. This RFP for parking in the Strip is in a response of a California Coastal Commission November 2024 decision to an appeal by Len Erickson and Catherine Slater Carter to approve the Caltrans project with the requirement to create 75 free public parking spaces that would be lost from construction of 2 bike lanes adjacent to Highway 1 at Surfers Beach. Their current plan is to pave the Burnham Strip open space to create parking in a protected view corridor that currently exists between Sam's Chowder House and Highway 1 on the west and Avenue Alhambra from Deer Creek to the southern residential home across from Spangler's Market, Indian Beach Restaurant, east of Highway 1. So I get it. The Harbor District wants more overflow parking during the salmon season. It's an opportunity for Caltrans to pay the Harbor District to create this 75-space parking lot, and PG&E may fund it as well. But they're not considering other alternatives, which is one of the most important pieces of the CEQA process. There's no discussion of restoring the original free public parking that existed at the Keaton-Earham RV Park, which is the most logical place for the required 75 spaces to be lost that serve those that fish off the jetty, walk the recreational trail, and play on Surfers Beach. This made me think of project alternatives, and it made me realize that probably the most important element missing from our GCSD ISMND is discussion of alternatives. Why do we have to choose between a community rec center or a preschool? I work construction, and I've worked as a public school teacher. In both professions, I was typically in a mobile modular double-wide trailer. I currently now work out of a mobile modular trailer with 6 offices, doors and windows, a bathroom, a kitchen, a small meeting room, and a large meeting room. Maybe GCSD should consider purchasing or leasing a mobile trailer for the community rec center office space, which would result in a significant cost savings. The trailers are prefabricated. They take about 2 weeks to install and can be placed in the most used and already highly disturbed area of the informal Surfers Beach parking lot. And this would use just a small percentage of the $1.8 million we've already used to purchase the Picasso property. This would be used for the purchase, installation, and furnishing of this building for a community rec center and offices. And I hope that we will consider this at our next meeting when we talk about the ISMND. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other? Yes.
Building on the Harbor District, Jim Pruitt, I just wanted to let the board know that one of the things that happens when you're president is sometimes the other agencies just reach out to you. So Jim Pruitt had reached out actually to Hope and I in November for comments on his proposal. And we provided comments back to basically say, contrary to sort of what's implied in his memo, that parking they're proposing is not needed for GCSD's park. The parking for the park in the plan is adequate for the park because it's sort of alluded to maybe GCSD would be interested in more parking and might help fund. Mm-hmm. So I did actually see in person Catherine Slater Carter and Tom Mattish on Monday and let them both know that that was something that we didn't need and wouldn't be funding.
Good. Any other comments?
Jen, I have a comment.
Sure.
Public comment. Since our last board meeting, I kind of took it upon myself to reach out in the spirit of trying to help find alternatives for preschool. And I did go and talk with the Wilkinson School, who, as everyone knows, is right down the street. And they are very willing and open to discussing a preschool at Wilkinson. So they have space. I think that there's a list of pros and cons for them to consider, but I just wanted to mention that for the community to hopefully work together and see if we can find a solution for the preschool.
Okay, thank you. All right. Any other comments? All right, then we'll move to the regular meeting agenda. Our first item is final executed lease for 480 Avenue Alhambra.
Okay, and as I point out in my memo, I just wanted to put this on our agenda as a matter of public record, as you'll remember. We held a closed session item on this at our January meeting. The board directed myself and Bill to present our offer, which was basically removing that paragraph 9 from the lease. We presented that to Picasa the next day. They accepted and signed it, and I subsequently signed it on January 31st. So we have officially extended the lease to May of 2026.
Thank you. Thanks to both of you guys for that beginning of the process. Any comments? No? Any comments from the public? All right. Then there's no action to be taken. We'll move to parks and recreation activities. Hope, I think you have the report on planned recreation program events.
Yep. So just some quick updates. The ecology recycling event did take place, and there were 191 participants, which is a nice high number. A lot of people getting rid of some things. Director Dye led a walk at the Fitzgerald Marine Reserve. Our one drawing class finished up. Tech tutoring has started now. We had tech tutoring last Monday and Wednesday. And we just met with another tech tutor who's going to start, I think, alternating with Director Bowles on the tech tutoring. And then we have a number of spring events coming up. We have our wellness series, a history walk, bird watching, weed warriors, which I'll talk more about when we get to RCD. We've got put a pop in your drought tolerant garden, which I think is going to be really neat. We have Janice Moody from Half Moon Bay is going to come up. She's a master gardener. She's going to come up and do a presentation. Another nature walk, the recycling day that's going to happen in April. There will also be paper shredding offered to the community, so people can bring up to 3 bankers boxes. And then we'll have what I think is going to turn into the most loved GCSD event is going to be the egg hunt at Quarry Park on April 19th as well.
What is put a pop in your drought?
She works with a lot of succulents.
Yeah.
And so it's the idea of putting some colorful stuff in your garden without having to have things that use a lot of water.
Cool.
I think it would be great if we had we could put together a series of monthly walks.
Sorry.
I would like to put together a series of monthly walks on the second Sunday of the month so that people know, oh, that's the day GCSD has their walk. What are they doing today? I mean, I've done a couple and I'm scheduled to do a couple more. It is not my intention to do them all. But I would like to reach out to the community that if people have something they could talk about, I think it would be great if people had in their mind that, oh, it's the second Sunday. There's going to be a walk.
In addition to like things like that are on here already, you're saying?
Well, the 2 of them are on second Sundays.
Oh, they are
already. The history walk and the nature walk.
You mean every month, shooting to have
Every month
have something.
have some kind of walk. And I'd just like to ask the community to come up with other things that people could talk about. And I know that we've talked about a harbor history walk, and there are more things we could probably do over at Princeton. I just think there's a lot of possibilities, and that I think it would be fun to have them in place.
Maybe what I could do is in the next update, when I do an e-blast, is put that as one of the topics. See if there are people who want to volunteer to do that.
Awesome. People think it's a good idea.
Yeah. There were a couple that were well attended, probably 5-6 years ago that Dale Ross organized. One was the Trees of El Granada, where he organized with an arborist to walk around and identify native versus non-native trees. And about
That'd be great.
That eucalyptus.
And the
Well, but-
edible plants lady.
We had, pepper trees and all kinds, and the New England or New Zealand Christmas trees. So it was just a good learning and what survives well here. The other one that he did was really kind of fun, which was an urban creek walk. And we walked Deer Creek from where it meets the Burnham Strip all the way up to kind of the top of Carmel. And seeing where it cuts through yards and how people have blended it into their yards and gardens. And that's also just a fun walk to get to know the neighborhood following the creek.
And there was somebody who did edible plant walks. one
Suzanne
point.
Elliott did right in the median across from her house, the median between on the Alameda between Portola and Isabella.
Right.
She does usually in the spring before they mow a 2-hour session on edible and medicinal plants. That's really interesting, and we've partnered with her
Yeah.
to offer that to the GCSD community.
Would either of you be able to give me contact information for
I
Dale?
can give you Suzanne's. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think for Dale. So
We just have to-
I'm not sure if Dale hasn't moved, but I'll check.
And I was thinking it might be fun to do. This is something we did on the first history walk, which is walk around and look for the original houses.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the one that the history walk that we do now is just, kind of starts and talks about the railroad and, all the things. And you get to see some of the original buildings, but it could be fun to do the old house hunt.
Director Grant, you had your hand up?
Yeah. So Hope met me out there and we did a little walk around in advance of the Weed Warrior, event. And thank you, Hope. And we talked a little bit about putting some things on the strip that might be good for residents. And so one of the things we talked about was putting picnic tables out. There's a dirt trail that comes right from the center of El Granada along the Portola Creek. The dirt trail goes to Highway 1. Everybody crosses there. But it's nice area, very little invasive weeds there. And it would be nice to have some picnic tables out. I think residents would go down there and watch the sunset and, bring some sandwiches, which could be great. And the other thing is we have an active skate park. The skate ramp is very active, but yet there's no bathrooms. They have to cross the highway. So I'm wondering if we can put a trailer, they have porta potties on a trailer, 2 of them, and they just come by every 3 days or every week, depending on usage. We don't need any permits to do that. It would be great to have for just the skaters and the surfers and the residents that use that parking area. That's what I have to say. Thank you.
The person who put together the ocean ciders that's down by the harbor, she first intended to put it next to the post office and got all the way to the end of the permitting process and found out from the environmental guys that the maximum time period that she could have a porta potty on the site was 4 months. She checked to see if we would be building the park anytime soon where that bathroom would be close by. But that's the reason that she moved to the other harbor property, is because she couldn't keep a porta potty there for more than 4 months. So it's just something we'd have to check out before we go that route.
Yeah, I'd love to check it out though. It's pretty important because they're running across the highway to use the bathroom.
Or they're running into the willows.
Yeah. What would be next steps for us to decide about picnic tables and porta potties? Is that an agenda item we need to add?
We'd have to investigate it just to
So
see,
can we-
as you say, no permits are required, but we all know we live in California. And I always tell the story when we got the mutt mitts, we had to get a coastal development permit. So,
Great.
but we'll look into that and report back to your board.
Great. All right, so with that, we'll move on then to the report. Oh, wait, sorry, anything from the community on the program events? All right, seeing as no actions, then we'll move to the report from Community Recreation Center Ad Hoc Committee. That would be me and Director Bowles and Hope. So we launched the survey on February 11th. Hopefully everyone has filled out their surveys. That should and could. So just a quick thank you to a few community members. So Janet Brer and Sheridan Blake Matthews and Will Plaxco all provided some feedback based on our last month's meeting regarding the survey. So thank you for taking the time out to do that. We appreciate it. We talked a long time about scope and design of the survey and wanted to really narrowly focus the survey into two specific areas. So as the memo indicates here, the first is that we wanted to understand whether the community supported, the recreation center, even if it means closing or relocating the preschool. And then the second was to understand if the community was open to decoupling the park development from the rec center development so that we could pursue one while we explore the other. Yep.
Can I wait till you're done?
Yes.
I had a question on that specific word, so.
Sure. Okay. Decoupling. Okay. I can come back to that. So with that, then we have now sort of released the survey out into the wild or into the world. I'm not going to go into all the details here, but you can see in the memo all the different places that we have sort of put the survey out into the community. And I don't know, Hope, if you want to talk specifically to the postcards and how many have been sent out and when those were sent out.
Yeah, so there were 1,993 postcards that went out. That was the number that we got from the mailing list for our district. They went out yesterday afternoon. So my guess is that they're going to hit the mail. They'll hit PO boxes tomorrow or Saturday.
Great. So that'll be a great push. And we were really intentionally trying to sort of cadence out the outreach so that it wasn't just blasting everyone all at once. So we put the posters up last Friday. This will go out now like a week later. And I don't know, Director Bowles, if you want to talk about all the different places that you put the posters up in the community.
Sure. I went to 22 places. I can run through them, starting with the drop boxes. So we have drop boxes at Spangler's, the Granada Post Office, and Senior Co-Siders. So they have a paper survey that they can put in the box that we're checking every couple of days. Then in addition to that, Granada Hardware, the Press, Granada Beverage Company, Maverick Surf Shop, India Beach, Harbor Pizza, Easy Mart, Hop Dogma, Half Moon Bay Brewing Company, Mezzaluna Cafe, OPL, or Old Princeton Landing, Barbara's Fish Trap, The Catch, Jetty Wave, Blue Ocean Brewing, New Leaf, Breakwater Barbecue, Picasso Preschool, and Dawn Patrol Coffee. So
thank you so much for hustling through the town and getting all those up. That might be why you have a cold.
I don't.
The rain.
It's either that or, shaking hands and hanging out at Senior Co-Siders. I'm not sure, but,
Just a lot of high risk behavior in service of the community. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. And one last comment, Jen, and that is, I talked to Candace directly. They were closed on Friday and Monday, of course. So I saw her on Tuesday, and they were closed for a deep cleaning. So because they were all sick. So anyway, something's going around, I guess. But
yeah,
all good.
And then in the spirit again of cadence and communications, Dr. Bowles and I are going to join the Reuben Truthmaker or Chris Johnson's radio podcast on the 28th in the morning to talk about the survey and raise public awareness there. We also have outreach to the GM at KHMB to try to see if we can get a PSA put out on the survey and a note into the editor for Half Moon Bay Review as well to see if we can get some awareness out through in that publication as well. So hopefully those will be over the next couple of weeks as well. And so we'll continue to raise awareness in the community around this survey. And our intention, again, as mentioned here in terms of next steps, the survey is open until the 11th of March. Our intention is to be able to share preliminary results on the next month's meeting on March 20th. And then with that, we will determine next course of action. So one of the reasons we kept the survey so narrowly focused is that if coming out of this, it becomes clear that there are other questions, for example, around what to do with the property or the preschool, if there's a resistance in the community for us to pursue that avenue of action, then we may need to do some more research to understand from an exploratory fashion what options are available to us, and then come back with maybe another opportunity to pulse the community. So we wanted to leave ourselves that opening to be able to take additional action should we need to. But we'll communicate any clear next steps next month or when we do the preliminary survey results, so that it's very clear for the community what we are going to be doing. So with that, I'll open up to comments from the board. And I think you were first. Yeah.
I just have two, and it's more just kind of clarifying the language. The board voted, I think now almost 2 years ago, April of 2023, to proceed to the CEQA process and potentially to the site development permit process if we approve the MND as a joint project. And I just wanted to say again, that doesn't preclude us from later delaying the rec center, delaying the rec center, or not doing the rec center.
Yep.
And so I just wanted to make that clear. So we're not decoupling pre-MND consideration.
No, the MND is on the agenda for next month.
Okay.
So we'll be talking about it then. But what we're talking about is being able to pursue post NMD, like one from
All
the
those
other.
options are
Right.
open.
So
Yeah.
they're all options. So we can still pursue potentially the NMD without actually saying we're committing to rec center.
Right.
We're committing to, I'm sorry.
Good word. It's not a commit to build.
Correct. So we just want to leave that open. And so the question is important on the survey to understand public sentiment around if we were to say, let's pause development on one, but still pursue development on the other, would the community be open to that? That's what we're trying to understand.
Right. That language on the survey, I didn't have any question about. It was more the memo.
Sure.
The other question I had was really on the next steps and timeline, because the remit of the ad hoc committee is to sound out the community, and that can include coming back with the recommendation.
Yep.
It was when we get to the clear next steps post sounding the community. My understanding is that's really a full board consideration.
Yeah, we'll share that with the board. Yeah, we'll share our recommendation with the board.
Got it.
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yep.
That was my only comments.
Yeah, it's just communicated to the board and yeah.
I had one more comment on the survey, which I think is great. I think the simplicity, and it did take like 3 minutes to do. And I think the form worked well. One thing, my reflection on the list of potential uses was one that I wish had been included, that I didn't say it ahead because I didn't think of it, but I want to say it here, is one of the uses that we had explored was using the rec center in conjunction with the emergency operations group of the county and our local El Granada CERT group as a respite center during power outages, or as a disaster center that if you go through CERT training. When I went through CERT training and heard all about the things that you do, like in an earthquake and you need a staging area, my first question was, where would we do that? But it is one of the potential uses of the rec center, since there is not any other public space in the unincorporated county.
Thank you. Dr. Grant.
Thanks. Thank you, Jen, and thank you, Wanda, for all your work on this. I know this is a lot of work, and I appreciate your work. So I reached out to the community to let them know that the survey was open, and I got some feedback that they couldn't find any flyers. And so I went out on the 14th looking for them, and I found a few, but many I did not see. And then I found one at the El Granada hardware store. It's the one in our packet, this one right here. And the thing is, at the bottom, it says, rec center and Picasso preschool. And at the top in huge letters, it's just a really general thing. And so people aren't reading this at the bottom because it's it's the font and the colors blend right into the background. So I would suggest, any flyers that you put out, in the future, put this part at the top, maybe in red, so people really see it. And I find that if you put flyers on, just blanket the community on power poles or anywhere you can find, you'll get more of a response, because people travel through the strip to go to Surfers Beach and such, and they do look at these. But I thank you for this. This is great. The other thing is the drop boxes. So I went to the post office to look for the drop box. I didn't see a flyer. I looked around. I didn't know where it was. So I stood in line and I got up to the front and said, where's the drop box? And they pointed to it. It was in between the two areas that you get services. So you pretty much have to wait in line to get up to the drop box. And there's nothing on the drop box. It's a little tiny thing that says, survey. So I would appreciate something a little larger. I did not find it in Spangler's or at Picasso Preschool. Can you explain, Wanda, where exactly they are at Spangler's and Wanda, or at the preschool?
So at Spangler's, when you walk in the front door and you turn to the left, it's right there on the window.
Oh,
And
It's a poster. They're posters. They're at Picasso. It's not a Dropbox at Picasso, and it's not a Dropbox. Is it a Dropbox?
yeah, Spangler's has a drop box. It's on the right, on the counter, and on the left, on the window, it's pretty prominently placed, is the poster.
I'm sorry, say again, where's the drop box at Spangler's?
It's on the right, on the counter. As soon as you walk in, it's on the right before where they have been trying to have that juice bar.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then Picasso doesn't have one?
Picasso does a drop box. They have a QR code on the poster. And I handed it to Candace, so I didn't put it up. I gave it to her to put up.
Probably inside. Then is there another drop box at the senior co-siders?
Senior co-siders.
And where is that?
That one's over on the tables before you walk into like the lunchroom.
I don't know where that is, because they used to be on Avenue Alhambra. Where are they now, senior co-siders?
Senior co-siders is at 925 Main Street. They've been there for many years.
Okay. In Half Moon Bay.
That's correct.
Okay, but only people in our territory can contribute. Is that correct?
That's correct. And people from El Granada do go to senior co-siders
sure.
program and their classes and all the other services that they provide.
Yeah, I agree. That's a great spot. Okay, thank you.
And just for what it's worth, the like, it sounds like maybe if you went the 14th, that you maybe got there before Director Bowles got a chance to put everything up around the community, because as she mentioned, it's quite an extensive list that she did canvas. And the posters themselves are far larger than what is in our packet. What's the size? It's like 2.
Yeah, some of the places wouldn't allow her to hang the full-size posters.
Yeah.
We ended up printing 8.5 by 11.
But the
Flyers.
primary one was I forgot, like 2
2 feet by almost 2.5 to 3 feet.
Yeah, so it's like,
very
so
large.
the larger posters, Director Grant, are like almost like 2.5 by 3 feet. So the bottom font that you're talking about, that's very small, is actually quite large on the large posters. I mean, you have to stand back to scan the QR code because it's such a huge poster. So we made it significantly big intentionally, but then there are some places, as Hope mentioned, that they wouldn't hang the larger poster, so they wanted a smaller one. So we printed out smaller posters to accommodate those businesses.
Yeah, Wanda, can you tell me where the large ones are? I'd like to go see one.
Yes.
Spangler's that big one in the window, right on the left side by the coffee machine when you walk right in.
Okay.
And so the El Granada Beverage had one. I think it may have fallen down, and so because it was right outside the front door, and I haven't gone back to check on inside to see where they put it, but it due to the weather and stuff on the weekend, it was probably not the best place. But and then Yeah, most places wanted, when I rolled out the big poster, they were like, no, that's too big. Um, so I had to go in with the smaller one, but to make it fit on a lot of the windows because there's a lot of other stuff going on. But I do have a question for Hope. Did Nora have a chance to talk to Ron in the post office about putting another poster in the lobby?
I'm not sure. I know she went over there to drop all the postcards off yesterday afternoon. But it was right as they were about to close for lunch, so I don't know if he was out available. And we didn't talk about it today, so I'll double check with her.
Okay, because you don't have to stand in line to, I mean, it's a primo spot for the drop box. It's in between the two counters, but you don't have to stand in line just to get a survey there. It's just there, and it has a big lucite backing on it, unless it fell off or something. But so it's right there for everyone to see. If you have to go inside.
Thank you. All right, are there any comments? Dr. Grant, do you have another comment?
I just have one other comment. So I had a resident here call me and say, I'm doing the survey and I don't understand this part. So it was question 4, what services or facilities would you like to see? And the second one is meeting and event spaces. And she wanted meeting spaces, but not event spaces. And she was like, I don't know what to do. And I told her, well, why don't you check it and then put a comment? So just to let you know, there's some people that are saying, I don't know what to answer on this.
Yep, and then there's also just the other box, so they can put other, and then they can specify meeting only, not event.
And that'll work. That's what I told her, and that's fine, right?
Yep, absolutely, 100%.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, are there any comments from the public? All right, seeing as there's none, then we'll move on to the report on San Mateo Resource Conservation District updates and management of the Granada Community Park property.
So included in your packet this month were both an update as well as an updated invasive species recommendation, an update to the management recommendations from the RCD. And as you know, we have a contract with RCD for them to provide assistance to us in managing the vegetation and park area of the Burnham Strip. So I've included those. And also I wanted to just mention that along with Director Grant, we did walk the strip last week and kind of came together with an idea for a Weed Warriors Volunteer Day. So we can go out and try to especially get the bristly ox tongue taken out. Per the recommendations of the RCD, we have actually gone and Director Dye and I went out and pulled the seed heads off of the ciabatta grass. And also since then, we've actually had a contractor go out and dig up the ciabatta grass that was established because the clumps were getting big and it was not going to be something that volunteers could very easily deal with. So those have been removed so that the weeds that are left are a little more manageable. So the idea is on the 29th that we would have a group of volunteers go out to address both the bristly ox tongue and the snails and see what we can get done. And then hopefully have that be an ongoing monthly volunteer day. Amazing. So there is a sign up. It went out with the newsletter blast, but people can sign up for that on the website.
I look forward to it. I don't even know what a bristly ox tongue looks like, but I heard about it for the last year and some change. So I can't wait to see one up close and personal.
And you yank it out.
You
can take your dog down there and you'd find out real fast what they are.
Oh, no thanks. And then I know what they are. Dr. Grant, do you have a comment or is that from the previous?
I do have a comment. Are you done, Hope?
Yes.
Okay. So, the Weed Warriors group, that can be really fun. I mean, it's very satisfying to pull weeds, I have to say. I love doing it. And I'm excited for the event. I do this for a living. I have 27 years doing restoration and designing, implementing, and coordinating volunteers and staff. And I find it very rewarding I hope that other directors will show up because it's a great event. But my concern is if we do hand removal of weeds and then we also do mowing, that's just aggravating the problem. And this RCD plan talks about using a tracking table. If you look on page 33, I don't know if you can bring that up. Hope, can you bring that up? Page 33 that has the tracking sheet.
Everybody's got that in their agenda packet. I can try. Go ahead and keep talking, Gibby.
Well, so it starts on October 2023 and goes to the present. But we've been mowing since 2018, the strip, 2 to 3 times a year. And the purpose of mowing was to remove bristly ox tongue. Instead, it just spread it. And it also spread the jabata grass and the snails. So I would like to have what biologists would call a pilot year where we don't mow at all this whole year, 2025, no mowing. If we have an invasive patch that we can't handle as volunteers, then we can have somebody with a weed whacker go out and just hit those spots. But mowing the entire strip is just, the natives have no chance of seeding. And it, contrary to what they say is mowing to 10 to 12 inches off the ground, they mow to the ground. The beach strawberry is gone. They took it out. They mowed all the way to the ground. And I'm not sure who the contractor is, but they arrive with dirty equipment. So I don't know what they bring on the property, and they leave with dirty equipment. So I think some education should be done with the contractor this is standard on all construction projects. You arrive clean, you leave clean. But again, the mowing is a real problem. If we are tackling it with volunteers doing hand removal and then mowing, it's just going to aggravate it.
Is this an item that sorry, go ahead.
I guess I'm just asking, are we planning to mow 3 times this year?
Well, we're letting RCD guide us. That's the whole purpose of utilizing them as our consultant.
Which was required, right, by the county.
We had to enter into a contract with the county, yeah. And we would do it anyway because I think they're a good.
Oh, I thought it's for the CSD towers part. We had.
Yes, we had to consult with them and ask them at the beginning of every budget year whether they wanted to be in it. But we also have been doing it just because they're a good partner and stuff. And it's what they do for a living.
Is there any value in bringing to them this question about doing a bio?
Yes, perhaps we could ask them to come and speak to the
we
board
spoke
about
with
this.
them last time about it, and certainly hoping I can speak to them again about it.
Maybe they could come to a meeting and share their perspective on it ahead of whenever we were planning to mow next.
On a biological pilot, is that the right word?
Yeah, what was the word you used? Biological pilot?
Yeah, it's a pilot year. It's where you do something different that you've done in the past just to see what happens. And I looked through this report and it says timing. They wrote, according to previous schedules, mowing 2 to 3 times a year during the following months is advised. That's a red flag because they're not recommending mowing. They're just saying according to previous schedules. It's kind of like we don't want to get into that. So we need to ask them directly, do you recommend mowing? And before they even do this, they need to have a general site assessment. So this is a standard on all projects. Somebody goes out and they walk the strip and they say, what's here and what's not. Usually it's divided into sections like the original 2018 RCD document. They had sections, they called them like between Portola Creek and Drainage 1 or whatever. So they had these sections and then they talked about what was native, what's non-native, what do we need to target. So for example, the part that's between Portola Creek and that drainage ditch to the northwest, east, upslope, there's not much invasives there, so we shouldn't be mowing it. There's no reason to mow. So I recommend we ask them for a general site assessment before every event, mowing, weeding, whatever.
We do have them come out because we have to do a nesting bird survey. They always do a nesting bird survey beforehand. So they do go out and take a look at what's going on before we do the mowing, just to be clear.
I have a lot of confidence in the RCD. They do a lot of great work in this county, and they do a lot of habitat restoration, and they do a lot of land management. So I understand and hear what Director Grant is saying, but I think if this is a question, we should ask the RCD to come back to us and to discuss this matter.
Yeah, so maybe it can be, they can come before any future mowing, like come to a meeting. Like it looks like this timeline you have here is like like April was a mowing period, so maybe like next month's meeting they could come.
Yeah, if it's looking like we're going to need to mow by then, we might be able to delay anyway. Sure. Especially after the weeding, but certainly we can. We have a meeting coming up with them. We're due for a meeting with them anyway, so I'll talk about it.
Great.
And we set those up quarterly.
I would also like to say that last year, right before the first mowing, I think it was April, we were out there catching snakes, coast garter snakes. It was super fun. And there were a lot of lizards too. And after the mowing, there was nothing. It was just no wildlife.
Thank you. All right. Are there any comments from the public on this topic? Or on this hearing? You should just go to the.
I'm trying to get everything down so I can kind of repeat this, but meeting minutes, will it have this like granular level of detail that I can pass on to the NCC? Or is it just me and my taking notes?
I'll tell you what kind of our general policy is. We don't do it like a verbatim, obviously.
Right.
That kind of thing. We try and give the action, any action taken, try and give a sense of what was discussed in a broad thing. So probably I'd suggest to you is check out our minutes this time since you've been in this meeting, and you can see if it's that level of detail.
Sure. I mean, I can tell everybody just watch the repeat because I think there's a lot of granular detail that you get into that may actually be of interest.
Sure.
So thank you.
We have talked about, but we haven't decided yet if we want to try it in a meeting, like one of the AI note takers to have as like something in the meeting. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And video has changed our meeting minutes, right? It used to be you had to put stuff in, and now you give a general sense. And like you said, if you want to go, they can watch it.
yeah,
So,
100%. Okay.
I have one last comment. Sorry.
Yes.
So RCD recommended, an option for tracking and monitoring. They recommended Calflora Weed Manager. And I know this pretty well. It's expensive. We don't need it. We're too small. We can just do an Excel table. Hope can, use that Excel table and just put the years and put what we did. We don't need to use this Calflora Weed Manager. Thanks.
we weren't going to.
Okay. Great. Sounds like it's aligned with what they were thinking here at GCSD, so that's good. All right. If there are no other comments, then we'll move on to the update to district policies.
Okay.
I'll let you start.
Okay. So, in an effort not to completely overwhelm with every possible policy, and also because that would be very difficult for staff to have them all in one meeting, we've brought forth 5 board and staff policies and 3 financial policies. Some of these are ones that the board has already seen and has approved previously, whether they were as part of the bylaws or standalone policies. And then we've also added a few new policies. This is not super long, but as I mentioned in the memo, the agenda memo, some of the policies still to come are listed out there. Those include a Zoom policy, roles and responsibilities of the general manager, various things. And then the financial policies, same thing. We have 3 on here, but we have 3 more to come. This is also an opportunity if there are policy recommendations, ideas that you've maybe seen with other boards that you think would be good for us to implement, we can continue to work those in. But just to sort of start the process, because as we said, it's going to take a while to get all of these built out a manual or a procedures manual for this. This is sort of the starting point. So I did get a few edits from Director Dye today, but if there are others, we can discuss them.
Go to the board first.
I have a comment on the code of conduct policy. And my comment is actually covered in the sort of catch-all point, the last bullet point, which says comply with all laws and regulations applicable to appointed officials and with those governing the conduct of meetings. When you're new to the whole public meeting process, that's a lot. So the one that sort of came to me because it's come up in my few years a few times is about 2/3 of the way down. There's one that says respect and protect privileged information, i.e. personnel matters and litigation. Though I just suggest we add specifically to that closed agenda discussions, because although those two things are examples of things that are in closed agenda, it's not comprehensive about everything that could be in a closed agenda discussion.
Closed session.
Closed session, I'm sorry. And
No, it's
over
good.
time, after too much time passes from a meeting, you can sort of lose track of what was in a closed session and what wasn't. So it's good just to have that caution specifically, I think. I have one other on the social media policy. Suggestion that I'd like to make policy number 5. The last line says, if staff or board members engage in discussion on district policy or decisions on their social media accounts, they shall make clear that their opinions are their own and do not represent Granada Community Services District as a whole. My suggested add is sometimes you can just provide information which is available publicly on the website. My suggestion is that we say if staff or board references publicly available information, that they should include the link to the website, rather than parrot the information, provide just a link to the source information, if that's available. And my other comment on this one, and we've had this conversation sometime in the last year, is board members have to attend to the risk of creating a non-public or serial meeting on social media. And I think the advice was that we don't comment on each other's posts. And Bill, I think you had some specific ones like that. Don't comment on each other's posts. Maybe it was don't comment on the same thing, but whatever the advice you have, I suggest we also make that explicit in this policy.
I think that's a good idea because even a thumbs up triggers the statute. So the statute is designed to allow board members to participate in social media because prior to the statute, there was a lot of confusion about whether it was serial meetings, if people were, linked to each other on social media. So providing clarity about that. So, if you make a comment, Nancy, and another board member doesn't go.
You can make different comments, but you can't comment on each other's.
And it's really about board business. So if you're talking about, I don't know, the block party or whatever, that's not a problem, but board business.
I think the survey is a good example of that, right? Because we post it all over social media and just making sure that we're thoughtful about how we're responding to community questions or comments.
Shall I use that example? After Hope sent us out the materials for the survey, I posted it on Nextdoor. Somebody who commented asked a question that was related to the preamble information in the survey. No, wait, first somebody asked a question about privacy.
And I responded to that.
Director Randall responded to it. So hands off. But then somebody asked another question about something that was in the survey. And I checked in with the boss who told me that because I was there at the time, I should answer that one. But it's I think important that we coordinate where there's a question.
Any other comments? Dr. Grant, you have your hand up?
Yes, I do. I want to say that I really appreciate Nancy's comments. I think they're spot on. But I especially want to thank Hope and Chuck for putting this together
So good.
It's wonderful. I love it. So thank you for doing that.
But I think it addressed some of the comments you made at the last meeting. And while I will accept the adulation, this was mostly hope. So.
It was great reading it. I was like, oh, look at all the things I'm supposed to be doing. Just kidding.
No, I agree. I looked at everything and went, yes, that's right. I should be doing it. It's a great reminder.
Yeah.
It's nice that they have as much information as you need, and are as brief as they can be.
Yes. Agreed. Very well written.
Just wait till that ordinance code comes around.
For an award for
You'll hate us
policies
on that
and
one.
playbooks, you'd win it, huh? You would nominate me for it. All right. Any other comments from the community? All right. Seeing as there are none, then we'll move on to Leadership Council, San Mateo County.
Nope, we need board-
Oh, sorry. We have to make a recommendation.
Yes.
We need to actually agree to this.
Yes.
Can I
Approve and adopt as amended.
make a motion that we approve and adopt the policies presented so far as amended in the discussion?
Second.
Second.
Wherever you want.
No, I don't have any further comment.
All right, we'll do a roll call. Director Dye.
Aye.
Director Randall.
Aye.
Director Marsh.
Aye.
Director Grant. Yes. Director Bowles.
Aye.
Okay, so first round of staff policies passes 5-0. As amended.
All right, great. All right, actually now moving on to Leadership Council, San Mateo County upcoming workshop, Shaping Tomorrow in Uncertain Times.
Okay, so I think some of you actually might have received an invitation to these workshops maybe about a month or so ago. I know Director Bowles did as a newly elected board member, and I believe Director Dye had received something as well. If you're not familiar with Leadership Council, that's actually the same organization that's doing the leadership seminars that I've been going to this year. They're very well connected. They're very organized. They do put on a good workshop. So I can speak from experience that if you wanted to do it, it would be probably a very valuable day for you. For newly elected, it's a 2-day workshop. So it's a full first day on Thursday and then a half day on Friday. And for incumbents, it's just the half day on Friday. So we've got it on the agenda because per our bylaws, if you want to attend something like this, the board should approve your attendance first. And that way you are able to be reimbursed for your day of service. And also the deadline, they were a little wishy-washy with me because I asked them specifically, I said, we have our board meeting on the 20th. I need to know that I can still sign people up on the 21st if they want to come. And they said that was fine. So I would need to let them know tomorrow if we have board members interested in attending.
I actually would have preferred to attend the first day, but I am on a plane that day, so I can't. The second day, I was not, it was didn't have very much information on what the content was, so I wasn't so sure about that one.
I'm in favor of this. I think any education we can get as board members is helps all of us. We're all experts. When Barbara goes to something, she brings information back. Nancy brings it back. Wanda's brand new. Maybe she needs to go to this. I can't do it. I work way too much, but I'm in favor of anyone who wants to attend these.
Hope, do you know if they're having another session? Because this is so late now. I'm working next Thursday. So I wonder if they have it quarterly or once a year?
I'm not aware of anything quarterly. I can certainly ask them. And you can get on their mailing list for events that are coming up or jump on their website. They do various workshops, but I don't something like this. But just as a reminder to you and Director Grant as well, you have full access to the CSDA website, which is the California Special District Association. And they have recorded webinars. They have live seminars and things and workshops that you can sign up and do remotely. And they are specifically geared towards special districts. And so when it comes to governance or Brown Act or any of those sorts of things, that is probably even better for you as a board member. The Leadership Council is really San Mateo County focused, and that is what they sort of specialize in, is making those connections within San Mateo County. But as far as governing for a special district, I think CSDA is probably of greater value. So if you wanted to peruse what they have on offer and then sign up for things that way, that might be a better way to go.
I think I'll do that, but do they also charge for those seminars?
Some of them they do. It depends on what the topic is and if it's live or if it's a recording. So if you take a look, you'll see.
I'll do that. Take a look.
We wanted to attend one that has a charge. We just need to coordinate with you first so that we can go through the right process.
Right. And I mean, I think with something like that, oh, sorry, Barbara. I was just gonna say, I think with something like that, I'm not sure that that would need ongoing board approval every time. I mean, if it's a recording, it's easy to wait, but I'm not sure how we would approach that.
I think we should make a motion to approve it, so we don't have to keep bringing it back.
For any board members who wish to attend.
Yeah.
For this, for these, right? These are within the wheelhouse of the board.
And then we'll just keep the board in the loop of what's happening.
And then it'll just be a responsibility to come back and report at the following meeting, anything that they've experienced.
They always have.
Yeah.
And that's a legal responsibility
Yes.
to do that.
Yeah.
And that's why you have that committee reports section on your agenda.
Can't wait. So then we would modify this, should we want to? Go ahead.
I'm interested in attending.
Okay. So in just the Friday half day?
Yeah.
Okay, I will sign you up.
Thank you.
And I'm interested in hearing what Barbara learns.
So then we are making a recommendation that's slightly different maybe than what initially we thought, but it would be to actually make this an open opportunity for board members to attend anything from the Leadership Council
Or CSDA.
or CSDA. Okay.
Yes.
All right, does someone-
So
We need to
someone-
make a
Yeah,
motion
someone
since
needs to make
it's
a
spending money.
So I make a motion that we have a sort of standing approval for board members to attend any of the county leadership council or CSDA educational programs with our standard requirement that following such programs, they report back to the.
Second.
Do a roll call, Director Dye?
Members of the public.
Oh,
Any members of the public have anything they'd like to say? All right.
Director Dye?
Aye.
Director Randall?
Aye.
Director Marsh?
Yes.
Director Bowles?
Aye.
Director Grant?
Yes.
5-0. Do we need a separate motion for specifically for Director Dye to go to this one? Or
No.
I didn't know it was all.
Great. All right. All righty. So with that, then we'll move on to engineers report.
Doesn't change much.
No, it doesn't change much because there's not a lot of action happening. So, any questions on that?
When are we going to start our next capital improvement program? And I'll note that our percentage of the flow into SAM is continuing to decrease. And actually Montera's increased, but I like to think that some of the reason why we've continued to go down is that we have continued to have a program to replace the older pipes. So I'm just eager to see us continue that. We skipped a year.
And we are, yeah.
And I know we are, but
Last
yeah.
meeting, because we're doing rate study. Yeah. So we haven't forgotten it.
But we're going to wait till after the rate study to do.
No, it's going to be rolled into the rate study, the funding. So we've set aside $400,000 for the next,
Right.
in the
I know it's in the budget.
preamble to the rate study, if you will, right? The information we provided.
So is that $400,000 for the CIP program and how much is the
For the
rate?
for the pipe, it's not called CIP, they call it the pipeline replacement.
Okay, pipeline replacement
Yeah.
program. Happy to
Yes,
call
that
it
is for
that.
that. Yes. So that's that 2-year combined phase all at once, right?
So another 6 months or
It will be approved as part of the budget in June, yeah.
okay, thanks.
But it is, I'm just telling you, it is already rolled in there, so.
Okay.
I know you love your pipeline replacement.
It's part of our job.
I
Part of our
know.
job. And
Managing the capacity of the plant as well.
yeah, and we skipped a year and,
Well, there are reasons for that. Sam was taking some resources, so.
yes.
Any other comments from the board on the engineer's report? Right, any comments from the public? All right, seeing as there are none. Report on Sam.
Well, Nancy's doing great work so far. There's hardly anything happening at SAM right now. So I'll let her report on her successful inquiry, getting the details of a financial issue. But we're just really doing small projects. They seem to think that the funding for the replacement of the boiler of the generator, the FEMA funding, is enough. Far enough along in the process that they will still receive it. These days, who knows? But Nancy was able to follow up on an issue that I thought she did a great job.
That's the, you referenced the FEMA grant. That's for moving the electrical.
Yes, the electrical
You
building.
said generator.
Well, it's a new generator as well. So sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
At the last meeting, though, it is sort of disconcerting to go to a meeting and have it last like 30 to 40 minutes.
Never used to, believe me.
There's not been a lot on the agenda. But the one thing that was on the agenda is there is a new boiler. There are two boilers at SAM that heat water for the anaerobic digestion, I think, if I have that right.
Yes.
I had a tour by the way, George Long does a great tour with lots of detail. And if you want to know why everything is the way it is, he's very informational. But one boiler, there was a decision made in the budget of the 2023-24 budget to replace one of the boilers. And there was a long delay because of the Bay Area Air Quality Management District working back and forth with them on the specifications for it. So it was finally ordered toward the end of 2024 in the following year's budget and should be installed in April. The plan in the 2023-2024 budget was to refurbish boiler number 2. In the interim, they have determined that the refurbishment actually costs more than replacement because these pieces of equipment are old enough where you have to fabricate parts, I guess, rather than buy replacement parts. And in the meantime, while boiler 1 is offline, the testing of emissions from boiler 2 came back above what it should be for our permits, about 10% above what it should be for our permits. And so they recommend that we replace boiler 2. And that should be a much faster process because it will be the exact same piece of equipment with the same specs of what's already coming in. They take about 4 months to be fabricated and get here. So Kitchen made the comment that the $185,000 for that part, the boiler itself, would come around as a request in this next year's budget. They have this wonderful chart now that I think we owe to Director Dye insisting they do, which is all of the in-progress CIP project that they have asked for the districts for money for are all on one chart with the year that they were requested, what their status is, how much of the money requested has been spent, and how much is still yet to be spent. And sometimes they are above budget and sometimes they actually are below budget by the time that they're finished. There's a lot of uncertainties. This particular one, they asked for $500,000 in 2023, 2024, and the boiler costs $185,000. So they're still on the spreadsheet, $200,000 sitting there. So my question was, if there's $200,000 unspent, and you've already spent $300,000, but I assume that includes tax and freight and installation, why can't we use that $200,000 to pay for this boiler and only have installation in the next year's budget? It took some digging to sort of sort out the answer to that question. And to be fair, I only looked at this half an hour before the meeting, so I sort of hit them with it cold. They didn't think they had money left over. When I sent them the details and my question, lo and behold, they can use that $200,000 for the $185,000 new boiler, and we will only have the installation costs of about $100,000 as a request in next year's budget, because otherwise it would have been closer to $300,000.
Right.
So you have to dig, but I'm going to carry that one chart around with me everywhere I go. And I did ask them to subtotal each year so we can see what their progress is for
They
things
don't
that
want
were
to do
budgeted
that.
years
They
ago.
do it? They say they do it?
They haven't said they will do it yet, but you know, me.
We keep working. We keep working.
I can actually, if he sends me the spreadsheet, I can do it myself.
Yeah. Well, the other thing, I have the spreadsheet. So the other thing is that next year, pretty much the entire CIP program really needs to go for the SAM pipeline in Montera. So once you start putting costs for other things in there, then that causes more of a financial problem for us because there's the timeline based on the lawsuit as to when that pipeline is supposed to be done.
Yeah.
Well, and it's a little interesting because when you were trading your emails back and forth, number one, it shouldn't be that hard, like you said. But number two, this is the first time I think they've added anything to a budget, and they've run over budget on a lot of big projects that weren't in successive year budgets. So
Yeah, I'll be watching
you're
the
affecting
underspends.
change.
I'll be watching the underspends to see if they can go for those expected costs.
Well, the other piece that I'm still confused about is they got a lot of FEMA reimbursement for costs from the big storm that came 2 years later. So they're not in. You say, well, where is this money showing up? You know, I'm not quite clear.
Right.
But that helped a lot. That helped a lot because a lot of the things that were kind of over budget or not included in the original budget that happened because of the storm, they actually did do a very good job of talking to FEMA. And actually, we need to thank Montera because SAM cannot apply for FEMA funds because it's a joint powers. And so Montera did all the work to do all the submittals for SAM and then was able to provide the funding to SAM. So we should actually all thank Montera for doing that. And it's been really, I think, a financial benefit to us.
Between that,
Yeah.
between the grants and the insurance, they really covered most of those
And
costs.
I want to put a fine point on it. We got glossed over a little bit. It's not a generator project. It is a
Yeah, sorry.
electrical building relocation project that is far larger than what we're talking about. That's a big issue for this district. I just want to keep reminding people. I know I've told you this before, but that's a big issue.
Yeah,
A big ticket
I
item.
want to point unless there's other updates, because we're just chatting, because Dr. Grant's had her hand up for some time.
we just a number to that big issue that Chuck mentioned. It's the grant they have that's been committed to them is 3 million. When you look at the project, you almost can't do anything for $3 million. So when I had my tour, I had a conversation about
And
whether that was
it's listed as a $6 million project, and 5 or 6 years ago, it was a $22 million project, which sounds a heck of a lot more likely.
Okay. Dr. Grant, did you have something you wanted to ask?
Yes, I do. So I was emailing back and forth with Tim Costello about the testing of the wastewater, and he confirmed that avian flu was high in our wastewater, and COVID also, other things, but he had a problem giving this information out without approval of CDC. And so I know something about viruses, and I'm really interested to know how we got avian flu in our wastewater. Are people, are they infected people, or do we have wild birds in our wastewater? I don't understand that. Did they address any of this in the meeting?
No, they did not, because SAM is a passive partner in this. They just collect water and send it off to the county. So it's really a county health department project. And all he sees is the report the county puts out and doesn't really get any further information. You also, I think, have the avian flu, H1N5, whatever virus it is, showing up in cattle. And we do have cattle in El Granada on the hillsides. And, that shouldn't be going into the sewer plant. But, stormwater sometimes gets into the.
Well, it's our
sewer plant, yeah. And
It
it
seems
comes
like a
from
lot, but maybe.
inflow and inundation. So it's interesting that it showed up, because it wouldn't seem like it's prevalent enough in humans at this point to show up in this.
It's interesting. One other question is, there's 2 NEPDES permit violations. And so did we get fined for that and then have to pay some money? Because it looks like later on in the agenda, we gave some money to Sam's. Was that for the fines or were there fines?
I think that those are the measurements related to boiler number 2. And so they have been communicating with the, I think it's BAAQMD, about the issue and keeping them apprised of the fact that we have the process to replace that boiler underway. So there haven't been any fines
I
related.
don't think so. I think it's just that the numbers came in over the level that's required, but I don't think it's seen as a big problem.
And they said it was maybe somebody was dumping something?
Oh,
Well,
that's
maybe
different.
you're talking about BOD.
It was
Correct.
VOD. Yeah.
Yeah. So they had a couple days where there was a little more organic material in the wastewater than normal. And it was slightly over. And because the test takes like 5 to 7 days to
5
do
days.
for what the levels are, they really can't address the potential problem. But it was 2 isolated days and it has not been repeated.
Yeah, they do measure the chemical oxygen demand right at the start of the process, which is sort of an early warning. If that spikes up, then they watch for BOD coming up. And that it spiked up and then went immediately down, which made them think somebody dumped something in enough quantity to spike that.
I think they call it a pass-through. So on the 16th, we have a charge for $1,940 for a December 2024 pass-through. Is that the same thing or is that something different?
No.
No,
Yes.
pass-through costs are costs that if they're fixing one of our pump stations or a pipeline and they incur a cost for a piece of equipment or a part, they'll pass through to us.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Because we have the
I was
contract.
confused,
To
sorry.
do the maintenance. Yeah. They have the contract to do the maintenance. And so if they need something to do that maintenance,
Mhm.
they get the part and then they pay for it and then we reimburse them for it. And I think that
GCSDs
was,
is
I like petty cash.
Sometimes more than petty cash, but yeah, we're reimbursing them for outlays. Yeah,
that was the pump station in Miramar.
right,
It's related to, the equipment GCSD owns.
Right.
It's not SAM owned.
right.
All right. Any other comments from the board on SAM? Any comments from the committee?
Michelle Dragony did want to speak.
Okay. Go ahead, Michelle.
Hi, I've been covering the Verily thing because I think it's such an amazing tool, and then they took it away, and it made me mad, and so I have been bugging Tim for the answer. And to the other question that you had in terms of how come bird flu showing up in the testing at all, it's because it's capturing the entire watershed because of INI. So it's not capturing people per se, it's capturing all the birds that are pooping in the watershed. And then Tim did get back to me finally today, in fact, and he got a response from the county. Do you want me to read it? It's 2 paragraphs.
Response. for what?
Okay.
Sure.
Please read it.
The
Go for
testing
it.
at the Half Moon Bay facility has not stopped, but in July 2024, there was a transition in who was doing the testing. Previously, it was wastewater scan, and now it is CDC's National Wastewater Surveillance System, which utilizes the Verily lab. CDC NWSS data sharing practices include masking facility locations as they do not release individual facility level data to the public. And apparently they were unaware that the Half Moon Bay facility was posting the raw data publicly. The Half Moon Bay facility was asked to stop sharing the link with the raw data publicly, which is why we can't do it any longer. We understand there's a desire to communicate the data, but we are working on a way to figure out how to share the wastewater data with the public that allows us to also provide an understanding and interpretation of the data. Additionally, we want to ensure that we protect privacy. For example, if a detection of a new and emergency pathogen is observed, we don't have a specific timeline for this effort, but we are aiming to share data again as soon as we can. Tim. That's all I got.
Thanks.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
Digital Coastal Buzz has the,
Has the
Coastal
buzz.
Buzz has the
Yeah.
buzz.
Any other comments? All right, seeing as there are none, then we will move to consent agenda.
have one thing. I don't think I need to pull it, but there's a couple typos in the minutes from January. On page 69, Hope. The Pat Tierney comment. Last line says CSD board, which I think should be GCSD board.
Under general public comment?
It's like 3 paragraphs down from the top, under Miss Andrews, then Pat Tierney stated CSD. It's the second last.
And the other one, I think this is correct. You didn't say it's the first time we met since the January board meeting because we were at the January board meeting.
Correct.
Okay. Then on Director Randall's comment, the next one down, says previous discussion of the lease agreement with the board since the January board meeting. That should be the December board meeting.
Okay. Any other items on the consent agenda?
Those changes, I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Any comments from the public?
Okay.
We have a second from Director Guy.
All right, so roll call. Director Dye?
Aye.
Director Randall?
Yes.
Director Marsh?
Aye.
Director Bowles?
Aye.
Director Grant?
Yes.
Okay, consent agenda passes with the changes for the minutes, 5-0.
Any committee reports?
I have a report.
All right.
I was invited to meet with Supervisor Canepa, who's the chair of the County Board of Supervisors. I said, "What? Why are you?" I said to the staffers, "Why am I invited?" He said, "Well, we're talking to a lot of elected officials." So I went over to the county headquarters and had a very brief meeting, very nice meeting with him. I had brought park plans to show. We spoke very briefly. There was a little bit of back and forth introductions, and then I started to show it to him. He has expressed interest in coming and walking the park site. And I have been back and forth with his staff about arranging that. I would let everyone know if and when that happens. So it was a very pleasant meeting. Not much accomplished, but very nice. And it just shows, I think, as coming in as the new chair of the entire Board of Supervisors, he's interested in knowing a little more about the other parts of the county.
Is that the one that sent emails to everyone?
Yeah. Looking for like contact details.
Yeah. Okay. Any other committee reports? All right. There's no action on that. Right. All right. Information calendar. Attorney's report.
No report.
All right. General manager's report.
I will just report that Hope and I have been working with our assessment district council to wrap things up, if you will. Now, sadly enough, as I've reported, we'll never be wrapping things up. So we're looking at some kind of way to get this in order. And our goal for this year, we meeting, and let's hope is just saying, every 3 months you do a deep dive, and then 3 months later, you're like, where do we go? What do we do? And it's so complicated. So what we're trying to figure out is what happens with the contingent assessments, which is an assessment people pay when they pull a permit to build a house, and the non-contingent assessments, which used to be that yearly levy on people's tax rolls and whatnot. How that moves forward, how we dispense of the money in the assessment district. We've got 5 different funds and about $1.6 million in there. So we want to put that to some use, whether reimburse it to people and whatnot. So we've been putting in some work on that, and we're driving that hopefully to the finish line, and we'll present what we find to your board.
Awesome. Thank you.
Is there anything else? No.
All right. Administrative staff report.
Nothing further.
All right. Future agenda items. I just have 3 from tonight. Picnic tables and portos.
Picnic tables.
Picnic tables and portos.
All right.
And then the pilot year conversation.
Okay.
The no mo.
The broader conversation with RCD though.
RCD.
Yeah.
I have just one more, but I think Chuck already has it on the list. And I've been getting questions from members of the public about the rules for teleconferences for boards and public agencies, because there's some variation between different public agencies in how they apply those rules. And so just for clarification and to bring us all to the same understanding, I asked Chuck to put that as a future agenda item when you're ready.
Yeah, and
We've been talking about that offline.
coincidentally, that was going to be the next batch of policies that your
Yes.
board will see in March.
And so for next month, we will have the ISM&D on.
We will have the M&D on, correct?
And then are these other items, the Whitwer Parkin contract and the Kennedy Jenks contract? And
Yes.
the community survey results. Yep.
And those two contracts might get pushed out till April. They don't necessarily, they need to be done by the end of April. So if they get pushed out to April, that'd be fine.
Who's this Whitwer Parkin person? All right, very good.
Miss that Whitwer.
If there's nothing else, then we will conclude the meeting at 8:26.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Parking person.
Sound